lights to go green here in Austria. Within the next hour, we'll know who's come out on top in today's qualifying.
Hello and welcome to Front Row Racing's World Series. It's round 8, it's Austria, and me and my commentary team have just now got a massive smile on our faces. It's gonna be wet. Now it says there it's overcast, but we can see on the car that I'm on at the moment, they're wet tyres. This is full wet conditions right now. This is going to be interesting. Question is it going to dry up for the race? Is it going to dry up in qualifying? It says cloudy with showers possibly later. It's
already raining?
Yeah, it's already raining quite a bit. Okay, in the commentary box with me today, obviously I'm Dave Lazenbeds, joined by Steve Sherberts. How are you this evening, Steve?
I'm hurting a little bit from yesterday's race, but I'm cracking on.
Did you get shunted up the rear so much you've now got a bad back?
I have got a really bad back and I did get shunted up the rear.
Okay, we've also got Ray in the pit lane for us as well. How are you this evening, Ray?
I'm good, guys. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Right, okay, we're going to do the usual thing. Watch the guys on track from the pit lane from my view. In these wet conditions, anything can happen, but I'm not really going to look at what's going off on the screen. I'm just going to go through some stats at the moment. Okay, so round 8 for the World Series, the Austrian Grand Prix, otherwise known in the olden days as the A1 ring. Taken over by Red Bull in the recent few years, brought back to F1. Fantastic racetrack, absolutely fantastic. And some people said that this track would be no good in F1 anymore because it's only got 9 corners. But this track shows it doesn't matter how many corners the track has got. If it's a great track, it's a great track. Simple as.
Just point out something in this qualifying session. It's getting drier.
Oh, it is potentially getting drier. Okay, so while I let you look at the screen, I'm just going to throw out some stats here. The championship standings for the World Series. We have Paul Farfber leading on 105 points. Rickster, who's not racing this evening. I'll get on to the reason why a little late. No, we'll mention it now, shall we? He missed last week's race. He wasn't able to race. And he let me know late last night he may not be able to make today's race. Can he have a reserve? We tried getting one in place for him, unable to do so, which is a shame. And I jokingly said to him, so come on then, what's her name? She must be good if she's making you win races. To which I get the reply of, lots of laughs, many times, she's going to uni for 3 months tomorrow, but it wasn't because of her that I missed last week's race. It's like, oh right, okay, so you are missing this week's race because you're going off for a bit of slap and tickle. So yeah, that's why Rickster's not with us this evening, but let's face it, I think given the opportunity, we'd all be doing exactly the same thing as he is.
He's getting 3 months worth in one night, isn't he?
That's true. Let's hope he is. Let's hope he is. He's going to need it. My advice to Rickster on that one would be, through Freshers Week, just go out and get wasted with your mates, but don't touch any women. And just ignore the Freshers Week when she goes to uni. Okay, in third place we've got a Razor. He needs a bit of luck. He does need a bit of luck. Okay, we've ridden on board with Andy for a lap there, so let's go and ride on board with someone else. Connor, he's joint third place on 82 points. So unlucky last week with a terminal damage crash. Then we've got Killer Corkin in 5th place on 62 points. He too could do with a really strong result here. And then we've got the current reigning World Series champion, Richie Davey, coming back to the track today, and he needs a win.
I was just about to say he set the pole time, but straight away afterwards, Killer's just gone and beat it.
Killer has just gone and beat it by 0.3 of a second. Let's go and see who else we can ride on board. We might as well ride on board with Richie. Is he up in Sector 1? He is up in Sector 1, so I'm not actually going to watch this. So
Hindle has just set a purple in Sector 1 as well.
He has. I'll get to Hindle in a moment, so hopefully we'll ride on board with him. Okay, so Richie, he needs a win here. Nothing else really will do, but points more than anything, but the win is what he needs. Jason, who was a reserve in the World Championship last night, you wondered whether he might have gained a bit of extra experience from last night's race, but in the wet conditions there's no experience to be gained because it was dry yesterday.
It makes the circuit a completely different animal.
It definitely does. Okay, so Jason is...
pole time, sorry, Connor, 1:16.7.
So Connor's just gone fastest, but Richie Davey, he's on a stonker here. I mean, I haven't watched it, but I'm just looking at the sector times. He's going to potentially take pole here. He is with a 16.0. Now, I haven't watched it.
It is definitely getting drier.
So that could be aiding the lap times. On board with Paul, what's his lap like? It's a little slower.
Not far off.
Okay, I'm going to put the camera...
Put something out to you now. I don't know whether we should mention it out in case there's certain people listening, but look at that, Dave.
Very interesting. The track is potentially getting drier. The drivers are going to have to make the right call at the right time as to whether they need to make any tyre choice changes. We've got Hindle going very slowly here. He's just completed a very slow sector one. I don't know if he's on an out lap or not. Paul's not on an out lap. Connor's on an in lap. Andy Russell is in the barrier. I don't know if he's getting out of somebody's way or not, or whether he's just got some... Andy Russell was disqualified from the session. I didn't see what happened, but obviously we saw what was happening at the end there. Okay, let's go on. I'm going to leave it on board with the Hindle. Let's go back to the point. So yeah, Jason in 7th place on 48 points, followed by Adam 4600 on 34 points, who had a fantastic result last week. Then we've got a reserve driver in for Azamore, who's on 32 points. Then we've got Charlie, the other McLaren driver, who's not available this week, and Hindle's in as a reserve for. And then we've got My Bad on 20 points, Nightwalker on 13 points, missed 2 races with technical issues with the PlayStation. Then we've got WTJ Bullock, who for whatever reason hasn't turned up this evening. And then Andy Russell, who we just saw get disqualified, and I think my co-commentator's been trying to find some additional information on that.
It was in right on the point of the end of sector 2, between sector 2 and 3, lost it, went into the gravel, tried to return back to the circuit and got disqualified.
I wonder if he's been disqualified then because it's deemed that he has driven the wrong direction. It can be very frustrating when that happens, because you do have to kind of just do whatever you can to get your car going the right direction, but I do know the game does not like people facing the wrong direction. So if he's been disqualified for that, the best thing he can do now is hope that the session dries up. He's got a setup for a dry race and he can become strong as it goes on. Okay, I've been through the driver's standings there. We've got 10 minutes to go. I'm quickly going to go through the constructors' standings. We've got Red Bull leading the charge. That is Connor. And I can't remember who his teammate is. It's Connor.
Killer?
It is Killer Corkin, yeah, Connor and Killer, that's correct, yeah. They're on 139 points. Total brain freeze then. Oh, Hindle's wide on the final corner. It's not a particularly... Oh no, he has just put a pole time in, but I did see, I wasn't watching the rest of it, but I did see that he was wide on the final corner there.
That was 3 purples.
That was 3 purples. I mean, obviously I wasn't watching, so we can we'll leave that up to the stewards for afterwards. Konzo, I just spotted Konzo's out on the inters. I think this is an out lap though, so it'll be interesting to see what happens to his qualifying times. And a Razor's coming out again on the wets. I'm not sure that's the right call.
I'm not, because I've just seen, and I was mentioning to you a moment ago, that there is the delta time there to tell you which tyre is faster, and it's right on that limit now, getting drier.
Yeah. The thing...
We may see the difference here between a Razor's time and is it Connor that's gone out on the inters?
Yes, Connor's out on the inters.
So seeing Connor's times and the Razor's times is going to be interesting between the two.
Very much so. And also, if the track is getting drier, you want to... If there is the chance of putting a dry lap in at the end, you need to be in the pits to put those dry tyres on. So it's a very tricky session for the guys here, but I don't think a race is going to improve on the wet tyres. As we're looking through, a lot of them are on wets, and Paul's come out on the wets as well. I'm not sure these drivers are fully aware of the conditions of the track right now. Okay, you watch Connor as I continue on with the standings. Williams are in 2nd place in the constructors on 131 points. That's Farfba and My Bad in hashtag good and bad Williams Racing. Then we've got Toro Rosso on 130 points, and they have come up with a new team name for themselves. and your accent is going to dictate how this team name sounds to you. They've gone with Team Nordic Bull, because one's Swedish and one is one's Swedish and one is from Finland. So they are from the Norwegian, not Norwegian, but they're from the Nordic area. Yeah. But if you've got a bit of a dodgy accent, it could sound a little bit Nordic Bull. So anyway, there you go. Well done on picking that team name. They're going to regret that. I've got a feeling there'll be a request.
Second sector for Connor is right on it. All down now to his third sector. There's a couple of tenths off in his sector 1. Sector 2's bang on.
How's his sector 3? Round the final corner. Well, maybe a little bit wide, but we'll see how he gets across the line. It's 15.5. There you go. It's definitely time for those intermediate tyres. And he didn't have the greatest sector 1 on the previous lap, but I've got a feeling we're about to see him go and beat his previous first sector by about half a second.
But also, I mentioned a Razor a moment ago. It was half a second down.
Oh no, he's only beat it by a tenth.
No, in sector 2, he was. Oh, there we go. He's put his time in. 17.30. He's nearly 2 seconds down on the wet tyres.
Yeah, it is. It's nearly a 2-second drop now on the wet tyres, as you say. Hindle has just come out on the intermediate tyre, so I don't know if you want to just ride on board. Well, I ride on board with Connor here to see whether he improves his sector 2. I think it was a 34.9 he may have done. Let's see if he can improve on that. Sector 2 coming up now. 33.9 is on a stonker, but the track's going to get drier and drier.
It's going to end up being who is on the circuit last.
That could definitely be on the right tyre. Yeah, definitely. Okay, around the final 2 corners. 2 fantastic corners if you can get them right. Much better line around the final corner. This is going to be a good time. It's a 14.8.
Wow.
That's just knocked about a second off the current lap time.
Just have a look at the delta time, and it's 1.5 seconds difference between the inters and the wets at the moment.
Yeah, that is a big time difference. Okay, Richie Davey also on the intermediate tyre now. Little wide through turn 1. He's done a bit of a lift from what I saw there. Okay, back to the constructors for a moment. Right, so yeah, Team Nordic Bull, followed by McLaren on 123 points, Ferrari on 82 points, Lotus on 60 points, and Sauber on 23 points. And also, just to mention, Charlie does have a qualifying ban for his next race event. Okay, now that I've got through those standings, I can sit back and actually look at what's going off on the screen. So, Richie Davey, he's had a fairly decent sector 1, but
Hindle was 2 tenths quicker.
He was 2 tenths quicker. Okay, so Richie Davey through sector 2, then we've seen Connor do a 33.9. Richie's on a 34.1. He's going to need a stonking final sector to improve on Connor.
Hindle looks like he may have backed off a little bit. I don't know how quick this sector 2 is going to be, but we'll find out in a moment.
We see sometimes driving in these tricky conditions, pushing is not the fastest way, but Richie Davey now coming up to the finish line. It's a 14.4.
Hindle's done a 33.9 in sector 2. That's one of the quickest sector 2s we've had.
So that matches Connor's second sector, but he is 5 tenths up in sector 1. How's his final sector? Wide through the penultimate, on the limit. Nice line through the final corner. Nice exit as well. This could be the high 13s. It's a 14.1. That's a good lap there. Now, I mentioned that on his lap earlier on, it looked like he may have been wide on some of the corners. One of the things the stewards do say is, in qualifying, if you do an ETL on your hottest lap, on your fastest lap, you could be getting penalties. If you do it... Oh, where's Hindle going now? He's in the wall. Oh, he's getting out of the way. Richard Davies, 17.4, sector 1, not bad. I want to see who else we've got. Killer Corkin, a 17.6. Yeah, so for example, if in the early stages of the qualifying session someone does do an exceeding track limits moment, if it's not their fastest lap, it gets ignored essentially.
Rich Davey, I believe, just set the fastest sector 2.
He has, that's a 33.7, so the 2 tenths he's lost in sector 1, he's gained in sector 2. What's his final sector like? It's on the limit on the final corner, that could be quick. It's a 14.0. That's a fantastic finish to the lap there for Richie. That could potentially mean that the track is just getting drier and drier. Hindle's not on a fast one. Killer Corkin's just started a lap from 4th position. tricky.
Paul's done a reasonably good first sector of 17.3.
He has. We'll see what Killer Corkin does in Sector 1, and then we'll go and ride on board with Paul, because Paul is the current championship leader and should not be ignored. Okay, Killer's done a 17.4. On board with Paul then with a 17.3, who is a few seconds down the road from Killer. Now this track is a fantastic racetrack in the dry. In the wet, like you said, it's a whole new animal, because some of the corners which were simple, fast, are now tricky corners, and those slow ones are just so much more difficult now. Sector 2 time of 34.3. It's a slow one. How's Killer's? So he's got a nice tight line there, but is it quick? 34.3. I've got a feeling, you know, I think it's time for the dry tyres. The problem is there's only 2.5 minutes left of the session. Now Hindle's just done a 17.1 in Sector 1, but he's all out of shape in Turn 4. That could cost him.
It's not it's not options times yet.
Oh, so it doesn't look like the track's dry enough yet, but
it is getting drier, but not quite yet.
Now Hindle's had a very good Sector 2 time, even though he was all out of shape in Turn 4, so maybe it is just on that cusp. We can see a bit of a dry line beginning to appear. So how is his final sector on this occasion? Still not quite trouble in the apex there. How's the final corner? Nice entry, good exit. This is going to be a quick time. It's a 13.3.
Wow.
That is a quick time. Now Richie Davey has also improved and done a 13.9, but Hindle has just done a 13.3. He's 5/10 ahead at the moment, and that's going to have annoyed quite a few of these World Series drivers. I'm riding on board with Richie Davey. A 17.3 Sector 1, but a 33.5 Sector 2, so he's faster in Sector 2.
Well, we've got Killer with a 17.1 in Sector 1.
And a 33.5 Sector 2. Now, Richie Davey needs to gain about 2-3 tenths. Oh, he's ran wide. As his final corner, not too bad. It's a 13.5. Okay, where's Killer Corkin?
There he is.
Like I say, 17.1, 33.5. If he's had a good final sector, this is potential pole. It's a 13.4. It's second. He's lost a bit of time in that final sector.
Hindle's time of 13.3 is going to be difficult to beat.
Sounds like Paul is out of fuel, and the drivers have only got 50 seconds to cross the line. We've not ridden on board with my badge yet. Another race. He's only done a couple in the wet. Well, this will be his second in the wet. 17.8 Sector 1, so a bit off the pace there. So let's go and see if we've got anyone. Connor heading into the final sector. Is he going for pits, or is he going for one last lap? If it's still intermediate tyre conditions, he's got the best chance. Paul has now retired. His session is over. So Connor then about to start the flying lap. I'm not sure if anybody else is about to be able to start another one.
We've had a Razor just finish a lap and up to 5th, but will he carry on to another lap?
Okay, Connor then round Turn 1, a beautiful line. Is it going to be quick? Heading up towards Turn 2. A potential danger zone when it comes to the Grand Prix. It's only a 17.4. Perhaps he wasn't quick enough there, and it's done that annoying thing of chucking us out of the pits. Okay, so we'll ride with Connor then. So let's go and ride actually on board with him. We'll use one of these cinematic views, shall we? Now, obviously, we aren't going to get a sector time here. We can't aid you in sector times, but Hindle, it says, is just on a 13.3, unless that's shown from earlier.
Rich Davey won't be beating that time. He's retired from the qualifying.
Yep, his session is over. So I think there's only Connor and a Razor that may be able to have a chance of improving on it. So as Connor heads into the final sector, a Razor's going around the last two corners. Hindle's just on a 13.1. We haven't actually seen that. So he was just ahead of a Razor. Will a Razor move up? No. 5th for him. Will Conzo move up? No. He's slowed down before the line. I don't know whether he felt he perhaps did something a little wrong on that lap and decided to back out of it or not.
It sounded to me like he was out of fuel.
If he was out of fuel, then he must have pushed that to the limit. But in wet conditions, you wouldn't expect anyone to be out of fuel unless they have done quite a lot of laps.
Did he do 2 runs back to back on minimum fuel?
Quite possibly. I mean, what would you do if it was a wet qualifying session? Because me personally, full wets at the start, put full wets on, stick about 8 laps of fuel in, and just go until the wets are no good anymore.
For me, what I would be doing is looking at the delta times. Is it getting drier or wetter? Because if it's getting drier, you can sit there and wait.
Yep.
Save your tyres.
Yep.
Because if it's a wet race, you're going to need them.
Exactly.
But if it's getting wetter, you want to get out there as soon as possible with plenty of fuel on board and get some laps in.
Agreed. Now, in yesterday's World Championship, the commentary team was sat there a little bit baffled as to why drivers were qualifying on the prime tyres for a lot, or were on the prime tyres for a long time in the qualifying session. Do you want to explain why that might have been?
Well, I qualified on the prime tyres.
And Ray's asking, and why was that? Because he ain't got a clue either. So come on, why were we doing it?
The main reason is the option tyre, the tyre life is so minimal that you need your option tyres for the race. Also, if you do too many laps on your option tyres in qualifying, it means you'll be pitting on lap 4, 5 or 6 in the race, like we saw Bartman doing.
Getting a puncture.
And he got a puncture. And the tyre life is so minimal that in some certain situations, like at the circuit, it's not a bad circuit. Start off on primes.
If you're going to have to do a 3-stop strategy and you want to use options a lot in the race, if you don't go and do 3 qualifying runs in qualifying on the option tyres, then all the tyres you're going to use in the race are used. And
you've got 3 laps less. It's a minimum 3 laps less
life on those tyres. Yeah.
And if the tyres are only going to be doing 11 laps. Those laps are going to go very
exactly quickly. I mean, if you're looking at a possible 2-stop, maybe go to a 3. You can't do it if you've used all your options in qualifying. No. Now, these guys haven't got that problem, but they have got wet start to the race.
So who's gone with a wet setup? That's going to be the interesting thing.
I don't think many people will have, is my gamble here.
No, is it going to get drier?
I'm going to sack man.
Is it going to get wetter?
For not giving me that
at this point, we don't know.
Ray's just said he's going to sack his inside guy for not giving him the information from yesterday. Oh, well, okay, so we're on to the World Series anyway. It's wet in Austria. The drivers, if there's one thing they're going to have to do in this Grand Prix, it's going to be careful at the start. Now, have we got Andy Russell behind us, or do we have Ray behind us?
I have a car behind me, but I don't know who at the moment.
You have a Lotus behind you, so that's Andy Russell.
But also, interesting thing is, I've got the choice now of starting on which tyre.
Because it's a wet session, you get the choice.
Session,
yeah.
Yes.
Do you want to just give Andy Russell... Oh, too late to give Andy Russell a shout. You're going to have to get out of Andy Russell's way. I'm hoping it's Ray that's sat behind me. I can't actually look. Is it you behind me, Ray? As they get going, away then. I've had no acceleration. Okay, so the drivers are heading up into turn 1 then. Let's retire from the session and see what carnage is kicking off up there. Oh, a Lotus! That's Adam 4600 went steaming through, and once again Richie Davey has been ended up facing the wrong direction at the start of a race. Then he's had a big wiggle, and we're missing all of the action up at the front of the Grand Prix. Okay, let's go and see who is where. My bad's up in 5th. We've got Paul and Killer Corkin having a right old ding-dong battle by the looks of it, as the drivers allow Hindle to get away. It's a bit unfortunate I didn't get to see exactly what was happening at turn 1, but a bit lucky that being on board the car I was, we got to see what happened. Paul and Killer Corkin fighting for 2nd and 3rd, but ideally they don't want to be doing this, because if they do, they're going to allow Hindle to run away. Now Hindle is in as a reserve driver, and he's kind of got a point to prove, to race clean, to race fair, and show these World Series drivers what he has got.
This is a lot wetter than qualifying was, a hell of a lot wetter.
It is looking very, very wet out there, and any driver that perhaps started on the intermediate tyre would have made a big mistake. I haven't seen yet whether anybody has. Oh, Williams gone wide. That's Paul. Mybad's got himself up into 4th place. Eraser's currently sat in 5th place with Connor right behind him. They're all on the wets. Then we've got Andy Russell in 7th place, also on the full wets, and they are very much needed at this particular stage of the race. Then we have Nightwalker, gone a bit wide, and he's allowed Jason through. I can't ride on board with Jason. He obviously heard my comment about the Nordic racing and has switched off his onboard cameras. Richie Davey, he's not going to be happy about ending up down in 11th place, but then did he not qualify up in 2nd?
He did.
So I wonder how he ended up down in the realms of danger before that collision happened.
Was he ready to start the race? Because I know that you don't really get much warning apart from that little clock up in the top corner.
That is true. Now Hindle is definitely starting to pull out a gap here. Which
can I just ask, how long do you think these wet tyres are going to last?
I would not be surprised if it actually said on the race strategy that the wet tyres could last the whole race, because at Monaco, the intermediate tyres, it said, would last the whole race, but then that was a potential one-stop strategy anyway.
I did click on the race strategy, and it said 2 stops on the wets.
Oh, in that case then, tyre wear is quite high here, so it is possible that they will have to do 2 or 3 stops, but as the cars go round, they're going to dry up the track, and also as the cars go round, if the temperature increases, then so's the track temperature, and picking that point of when to go to intermediate tyres could be absolutely crucial. Now it looks like we've got My Bad having a little look at Killer Corkin.
Very wet off the racing line.
It is very wet off the racing line, but I wonder how many of the drivers are aware or have actually tried in the wet conditions to actually drive off the racing line. Automatically you stick to it, but in wet conditions, have you tried driving off the racing line? Is there more grip over there?
Particular corners have got a high camber on them.
Exactly.
The higher the camber, normally the more grip on the outside of the corner. But you wouldn't, at turn 2 here, if you went for an overtake up the turn 2 up the inside, I wouldn't be surprised if you aquaplaned into that corner, because it's downhill. The most of the water's going to be at the bottom of that corner.
You mean turn 3? Because turn two's up. Because I was going to say, with turn 2, right, if you go up the inside at turn 2, I reckon you're going to have better braking there, because the dirtier part of the track tends to be the quicker part of the track in wet conditions. But the drivers seem to be spreading themselves out a little bit. It's going to take them a few laps to get settled into what their cars can do in these wet conditions. And Richie Davies got himself up to 8th place. We haven't seen it. I'm guessing then whether something has happened with Jason and Nightwalker, or whether Richie Davey has just been quick enough to get past them, which is quite possible. Adam 4600, he's down quite a way now. I think he is definitely struggling in these wet conditions here. Fantastic race last time out, but in the wet conditions here in Austria, he's finding it a little bit more tricky. Now, he's gone from a pad user last season to being a wheel user this season, and if he's not done much wet running, it's a whole new experience, isn't it?
It's like previously you would have been driving with no power steering, and all of a sudden they've just switched on this super power steering, makes it mega light and unbelievably easy to steer.
Yeah.
Totally different car.
It's a very different. It almost gives you that impression that your wheel is not working properly.
Yeah.
But it's just the car's slippy, it's sliding, and if you got your setup, Paul's very wide on the final corner. I'm surprised the camera's still working there. Yeah, I mean, if you're not used to it, or you've gambled a bit for a dry setup, or your setup's slightly wrong, it could potentially hurt you a lot.
It could. I have noticed that right at the start of this race, it's given us the times between the leader and the following cars. Paul at the moment is 3.3 seconds behind, so we're going to have a little look at that. I'll keep an eye on that to see if Paul is catching Hindle.
Okay, so we're 5 laps in, and if it's saying that this is going to be a potential 2-stop race on the wets, you only get 3 sets of wet tyres. Any drivers that did 2 runs in qualifying on their wet tyres, which some of them did, they're used. So that could mean that their wet tyres could start dropping off before the possibility of a 2-stop window. Now, if it was me behind the wheel at this time, I'd be looking at my lap times. Can I improve my driving? Can I gain a bit more? Can I do something to help? Or are my times dropping off? If my times are dropping off, you then have to think, okay, do I gamble it's going to go drier later, make a pit stop, stick another set of the wet tyres on, which will be a lot quicker, and gain me later on? Oh, Red Bull nicely sideways out of the final corner there. Okay, let's go and see if we've got
exactly the same amount of time behind Hindle as he was on the previous lap.
So the gap between first and second is staying the same, and to be honest, I was going to say the gap between the rest of them is staying quite the same as well, but Andy Russell has gained on a Razor, and Richie Davey, he's still going.
I think Rich Davey may have a dry setup here.
Quite possibly. I think he may now have some additional weight in his cockpit as well. I've just
external weight.
External. I've just heard that the pit lane reporter's microphone click. Go on, Ray. What do you have for us?
Look at the clouds. They seem to be lightening up. So could it get dry?
That's interesting, actually. Ray's just mentioned it, and look ahead now. That sky is blue over there. To the right, it's grey and it's dark. Have we got some dry weather coming our way? It looks like we might have. That could totally change the whole aspect of this Grand Prix, because then it comes to
a racing strategy at the end of the day. The tyres, at what point do you go on to those intermediate tyres? It could either put you at the lead or it could put you at the rear.
Richie Davey.
That looks like a pit.
That looks like a pit entry. It is a pit entry.
What tyres?
I'm wondering, I reckon he's going to be going for the intermediate tyres here. Because I don't know if you would agree, I don't think you can go from full wets to slick tyres, and this track is nowhere near ready for slick tyres.
It's not, but there is a racing line appearing. And what tyres is he going with?
Intermediates.
It is the intermediates. We hear from Ray in the pit lane. It is the intermediates. Now, if that's the right call, he could potentially gain 3 to 4 seconds a lap here.
With the start that he had, he's the perfect driver to take the gamble on this, because he's got nothing to lose. He needs to gain.
Exactly, and if he's called it right, he will gain. Oh, you can't see it, but I've just spotted on another screen that Paul has gone a little bit wide at turn 3. He's struggling a little bit there.
He's lost 3/4 of a second off the lead.
He has. He's dropped down a little bit, so maybe it is now at that point where these tyres have started to wear, the track has dried up a little bit, and there just isn't enough rubber on these tyres to give them the grip.
Would these be the tyres that they used in qualifying? Would that shorten the life of them?
It shouldn't be, to be honest. I mean, if they had a brand new set, it would potentially start them on a brand new set. As far as I know with the rules, if it's a wet qualifying session and a wet race, you can pick which tyres you want to start on.
But looking how sideways some of these cars are now, it must be 10 laps maximum. So if they've only got 3 sets of these tyres...
Well, Red Bull very, very sideways there. That's Killer Corkin. But another thing to take into account is what the driver's perspective is. If we actually ride on board with Killer Corkin, this is the view he's seeing. So he's seeing this as very, very wet. He's probably thinking this isn't time for intermediates, and everybody else will be thinking the same. But sometimes the driver's view can be deceptive. As they mentioned in real F1, the driver's got the water hitting his visor, making it look like it's raining harder than it actually is.
Especially when you've got the spray coming up from the car in front of you.
Yeah. Now, you see, in Monaco, when we had wet weather there, a lot of us drivers thought it can't be time for intermediates or slicks yet, but in actual fact it was. Now, this is nowhere near ready for slick tyres, I don't think, but I don't reckon it'll be too far off, because as we can see here, there is a dry line appearing. So maybe what some of these drivers are actually trying to do is gamble on that. Okay, I'm going to run the wet tyre until I can put the dry tyre on.
But it is still raining, and we haven't got any information yet on what the pit crews have told the drivers about the forecast for this race. We don't know whether they've said it's going to stop raining in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, heavier shower in 10 minutes. That
is very true. We don't have that engineer's information. At the end of the day, we're just in a commentary box and it's not even air conditioned. But today, we don't need it. Okay, we've got Konzo right up behind the Williams of My Bad. Go on, Ray, I can hear you clicking.
And Russell's just changed to another set of wet.
So Andy Russell has just changed to another set of wet tyres, but Richie Davey has just put in the fastest lap of the race. I don't know by how much, but he is fast now on those intermediates, as Connor's having a sneaky look at My Bad. That sent My Bad wide, and Connor's got half a chance now of attacking towards turns 5 and 6. I think the drivers really need to make that call now of actually going for the pits, and it looks like Hindle, he's on his way into the pit lane. He is.
It was half a second faster that lap time.
So it was only half a second gain, but it was still the fastest lap. Oh, Hindle's out of shape heading into the pit lane. Killer Corkin's now in second. What's happened to Paul? Paul's dropped down to third. No, Paul's into the pit lane, sorry.
And this is exactly where Rich Davey will make the time up, because he's already done the fastest lap of the race, and where everyone else is going to be...
Jim's followed him in. We've got a double stack. Is Jim going to get away with it? No, he's not. And I tell you what, if there's a Toro Rosso or a Red Bull coming in, he's going to be blocked by the Williams. Kind of won't be too happy about that, but it doesn't look like it's cost him too much. But he would have been sat there going, oh, Jim, at least you're not put me into a wall this week.
Rich Davies just about to finish his next lap. Will it be a faster lap again?
Now, Richie Davies, it is.
15-1.
Now, he's just about to head around the first corner, and there he is right behind Konzo. I think it might. No, that's Killer Corkin. It'll be.
So will Rich Davey actually benefit here because he was the first one onto the Inters, or will his Inters go off too soon?
I think what's happened there is everybody saw that time pop up from Richie Davey, and they've gone, it's definitely time.
And do you know what? If that update hadn't been done yesterday,
they wouldn't have known.
Wouldn't have known that.
No. So I know some people have said, well, I want to see who's doing fastest laps. Personally, I would have preferred not to in this situation, because if that is what the signal was, then it should be down to the team's engineer to tell the driver, we've got a McLaren going slow. That's Hindle. What? He's on the option. He's on the prime tyre.
He's took the wrong gamble there.
Oh.
He's messed his race up.
There's gambles, and then there's throwing all of your money away in a Las Vegas casino or in a Thailand strip club.
He's going back for the pits by the look of it. Is he going for the pits?
He's got to go for the pits.
Will he make it?
He's had to go very, very slow. That could have cost him a lot. But every driver that has just gone past him has now... Oh, is he going to make it? Oh!
Rich Davey, another fastest lap.
So Richie Davey is on a right good old charge now. Let's go and have a look. Oh, he's wiggling a bit. So Richie Davey, he made that call, and you know what? I reckon he'll make that call again when it's time for the dry tyre.
And this is where the experience comes in. Out of everybody in this league, Rich Davies probably the one that's been in the league the longest, apart from Paul.
Paul, yeah.
Apart from Paul, Rich Davies got the experience from racing in these conditions.
He has.
And we've got Hindle now on the Inters.
And he's got Andy Russell behind him, who pitted when everyone else was putting Inters, or Richie put Inters on. Andy put Andy put wets on, so I reckon he's gone back to the Inters.
He has.
Hindle has come out again on the intermediate tyres, and he's going to be absolutely gutted because he's now 9th place.
He's lost 8 places.
8 places. Now, I know we like people that go for a gamble and get it right. You have to feel for those that go for a gamble and get it wrong, but in his situation, was that the right call to make?
Well, yes and no, because he's learning. And he's just learned the hard way.
That is very true. Sometimes the only way you do learn is to make mistakes. Fourth, but Paul has just gone and put in a 15.2 lap time. We've got a move going on. Konzo, I think, on Killer Corkin, with Richie Davey watching in the background, up through turn 1. That's a beautiful move there, but they're all getting sideways. Please don't end in carnage. Richie Davies, he's sensing the opportunity here. Slipstreaming 1, he's going for the inside. 3 wide into turn 2. Can he get it stopped in time? Now that is how you drive, guys. That is absolutely phenomenal. Richie Davey makes a move to go from what was 4th place now into 2nd place. He's got a chance of attacking Paul for the win.
The thing is, Paul's on a charge. It's Paul that's setting the fastest laps now.
But I think Richie Davies going to pull away from these two guys. I've got to admit, that was a fantastic move into turn 2 there.
That's the best overtake we've seen this season.
I think by far. I mean, that could have ended in absolute... Obviously, I've now worked out what to do in the commentator situations. Go, this could be absolute carnage. Don't say that. Say, please don't hit each other, and they go through the corner. So that was sublime. That was... You know Richie Davey as well. He's going to be sat there smiling.
He's going to go, I hope they've got
that. I bet he didn't get that one. I bet he did get that one. We'll have to wind him up and tell him that we didn't. Everybody tell Richie Davey we didn't get that overtake. Okay.
The fastest lap.
My bad. Oh, we got Connor. No, it's Killer Corkin gone deep at turn 1. He's lost out. It couldn't be getting to that point of drying up a little bit. Could it?
It does seem like there's less rain falling on a slightly dry line, but I don't feel it's quite right yet. It's not there yet.
Hindle's just done a 14.1 lap time.
Now the guys that are setting the fastest laps now are the ones that went in the pits
late. So they've got
fresher.
Yeah, they've got newer intermediate tyres.
Is Rich Davey going to start losing time, or does he need to pit again to make a bigger advantage?
I don't think it'd be worth pitting again for intermediates at this point. From here now, you run these tyres until you can put the slicks on. Now, Ray did mention a few moments ago that from the pit lane, it is looking like it's starting to get a little bit brighter down there. I just hope that he's not wearing sandals, because if he is, he's going to end up with Austrian trench foot, and you really don't want that. Richie Davey is in the pits, apparently. Where is he?
Where is he?
He wouldn't let me ride on board with him. There we go. Is he going for it? Is he gone for their option tyres?
They're wet.
No, they're wet tyres.
They're full wet.
What's he done?
Has he?
I think he's gone to make a gamble for the slick tyres, and he's now sat there asking his pit crew, what the bloody hell have you just done to me?
I think what it is the strategy was set for wet tyres to be put on.
Yeah.
And he's not told the pit crew to change to a certain, or he may have done it too late, or he's not acknowledged it.
So after an absolutely phenomenal piece of driving, we've now got Richie Davey, who's going to be sacking half of his pit crew here. That could potentially have gifted Paul the victory, and I tell you what, he's got a Jason on the intermediate tyres, and he's going to be a sitting duck.
Does he know something we don't know? Because is it going to rain again? Because yes, we saw some blue clouds, but those blue sky in the clouds, but
I don't think it was an intended tyre change there. I mean, Hindle's now got another driver to race, but Richie Davey, I think we're going to be seeing him enter the pits again. Now, something that we've discussed previously is that when you're on those intermediate tyres, if the race director feels it's safe enough, he will allow for he's going for the pits, he will allow for the DRS to start being used. As soon as that was close. As soon as the drivers are informed, he's all out of shape in the pit lane there, but as soon as the drivers are informed that the DRS is now active.
That's normally the sign that the circuit is dry enough for the dry tyres.
Yeah.
But we haven't had that sign yet, have we?
So is it going to be slick tyres?
Back to the tyres he was on.
Back to the intermediates. That's ruined Richie Davies' race. He's going to be devastated with that one. Paul, on the other hand, he's gone to the dry tyres. He's on the option. He's on the prime tyre.
Paul was in the lead when he decided to change these tyres, and it seems to be that every time somebody gets into a good position, they're making a certain call that could end up putting them further back.
I think this is what we call the Chuckle Brothers effect. To you, to me, to you, to me. Now, Konzo's currently leading. He's on the intermediate tyres. He's going for the pit lane. Killer Corkin's continuing on. I think Konzo's going for the slick tyres as well.
Rich Davies just gone wide on turn 2.
So he's struggling on the intermediates, but he's also going to be driving angry right now. I think we're going to be seeing prime tyres are going to be coming on here. No, it's not. They're options.
So is Rich Davey going to make 3 pit stops in 3 laps?
It's quite possible. Okay, so where's Paul? I think Paul was thinking about going for the pit lane again.
Where is he? He's disappeared.
No, he's got Hindle right behind him, and that's how much it's cost Paul. And there's contact. There's more contact. There's more contact. And Hindle, I think he's ended up in the wall. He's facing the wrong way. He's going to get disqualified if he's not careful. He ain't going to be happy that a collision happened there. But that's why we have stewards. Now, Paul...
I think with Paul, he just needs to hang on for this 1 or 2 laps with these tyres, and then they'll come into their own.
Things in these kind of...
We have Rich Davey in 3 laps, 3 pit stops.
3 pit stops in 3 laps. Now, Paul's got Jason on the intermediate tyres all over the back of him. But this is where Paul, in these conditions, the only way he can make this work, or anyone on the dry tyres, is to stay on the racing line. Anywhere other than the racing line, and you're going to cool your tyres down.
We've got Rich Davey on a 3rd different set of tyres in 3 laps. He's gone from, in 4 laps he went from inters to wets to inters, now to the options.
Jason's made a move but gone deep on the intermediate tyres, and now Nightwalker's getting in on the action. This has been absolute mayhem. Go on, a little bit of contact. That sent Nightwalker sideways towards the marshals. So Richie Davey
has just been lapped by the leader, Killer Corkin. That's how much those pit stops have cost him. Cost him a whole lap.
That has cost him quite a bit. It's so busy heading to the final corner now. 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. Closer than any of them like to be. Paul's still struggling on those slick tyres. Oh, Jason moves out and nearly collects the Lotus. And they're side by side, and I think there was a little bit of contact. Jason's fighting for a bit of room, and Andy Russell's trying to get involved in well. Let's hope this goes without any drama.
Looks like Paul is the cork in the bottle here at the moment. He's holding these up and they just look like they're ready to explode past him.
He definitely is. I mean, this is such a tricky situation because Paul doesn't want to have to pit again. He needs to make these tyres last, but the guys on the intermediates now, they're all over him. There's not a lot he can do, and it won't show me a better view than this right now, which is really frustrating.
What we need at this moment in time is for one of the drivers that are on dry tyres to set a new fastest lap,
Yeah.
and then we know that it's, and everyone else knows now's the time.
Now, obviously, I mean, we're just commentators in this, and one thing that we actually said, I mean, we were having a bit of a chat before the race, when it comes to commentators and the commentary teams, sometimes not everything they say is going to be correct.
Exactly, that is true. We do make mistakes. We say what we see, and sometimes on reflection, it may not be correct.
I've just
seen that we've got my bad in second place, only 3 seconds off the lead.
Hold on a moment, Ray, where was that contact?
Paul on Garson.
Okay, it might have been shown on my screen. I wasn't actually looking at that point, but as you say, we've got my bad up in second place, and the leader Killer Corkin, both of which put the intermediate tyres on and are still on them.
I've stuck with them.
I've stuck with them. If they make the tyre change at the right time, they're going to have a fairly... Oh, big collision. I don't know if it was a collision, but it was a collision with a barrier at least. That's a damaged front wing. I think it's for Jason. It's not letting me ride on board with Jason, so I think it is Jason.
Oh, we've got a razor wide at the penultimate corner. He was struggling there.
Okay, so we ride on board with a Razor. He's now in third place. I think he's just going to mirror what Killer Corkin and My Bad do up ahead of him. Connor is in fourth place on the option tyres.
This is where we need to see the fastest lap pop up.
I don't think we're too far away from it happening. I really don't. Is Connor going to be the first to do it?
Not this lap.
No, not this lap. Now,
I'm going to have a look, see what time his lap was on that lap.
Okay, Paul looks like he's either managed to pull a bit of a gap. We've got a Sauber in the pit lane. Paul's pulled a bit of a gap, but it could be through a bit of fighting. I don't know. He's got the McLaren off Hindle right behind him, who's still running on those intermediate tyres. So after the initial collision and everything else that's happened, Hindle has now been able to close that gap back up.
Just point out that Connor's last lap, it was a 16.0. That's about 1 second off the fastest lap at the moment.
Now, Ray is saying that a lot of them have changed to the dry tyres. We have seen quite a few of them switch to dry tyres. We've got Adam 4600 in the pits. He's put dries on. Who is ahead of him? That's Jason. He won't let me ride on board with Jason.
Got the list up here.
Okay, Jason is now on the option. So we've got Killer Corkin in first on intermediates. We've got My Bad in second on intermediates. We've got a Razor in third on intermediates. Konzo in fourth on Killer Corkin. He must be in the pit lane. He's just dropped down he is in the pit lane. He's just put the options on.
It's on the same.
So My Bad also into the pits for the options. Has
a Razor's carried on the inters.
So a Razor's now taken the lead. Now, it is also possible, I mean, I'll keep going through the lift. Paul's on the primes, Hindle's still on the inters, Andy Russell is on the options, Nightwalker's on the primes, Jason, Adam 4600, Richie Davey all on options. Now, for those guys that went to the dry tyres earlier on, by now their tyres have been abused. So they're going to struggle for lap time. The guys that have just put them on could potentially smash their lap times now.
I mean, we're on lap 20, we've got 16 laps to go. Even if they pit now, they're going to have to do another pit because even the primes are not going to last from this.
Now, I don't know how far Connor was behind these three or the leaders before they pitted, but he has now jumped Jim, so he's currently sat in third place, which is essentially a net second place.
There we go.
Okay, so new fastest lap.
I don't think that was
That's not the fastest lap because they already got down to...
It was in the 15s.
15s, yeah, it might be. I've just seen Jim have a horribly massive wiggle. But, okay... A Razor,
there we go.
That's an intermediate lap time.
It is.
I'm more interested in what Killer Corkin does here.
Was this his out lap?
Killer Konzo 13.5. Now I'm fairly sure he's been on these tyres a few laps, so the times are now going to start tumbling.
That's a sign to everybody. Get on the dry tyres.
Yeah, if you're not on dry tyres now, you need to be. Richie Davey goes and knocks another second off that lap time. Now, obviously, he's put himself right out of contention to a degree, but he's in 11th place. He's behind Paul, but I think he's a lap down.
He is, which is a shame.
Okay, so a Razor's still going on the intermediate tyres. He needs to pit now. He's got two choices. Option to the end, or risk the primes to go the distance.
I think at this point, this is where he's just trying to figure it out. Do I do one more lap and then try and stretch the options. Because I mean,
Adam 4600 a 111.8. So that's another second off the lap times. That was a sign. He may have popped up too late for a razor to tell. The dry tyres are definitely the tyres to use. I mean, a razor's probably doing sort of 114s, 115s, but what's Killer Corkin doing?
Well, Killer's only 7 seconds behind a razor, so Killer has almost already pulled back the pit stop.
Definitely. A razor. I wonder if a razor is just trying to stretch it so he can go prime tyres to the end. Richie Davey with a 111.2. We said these times would start tumbling, and they are doing. Now, Killer Corkin has got Connor all over the back of him. Now, these two are in the same team, so they don't want to be fighting each other too much. DRS definitely active now. The question is, I think they've here comes the faster times are going to come. I reckon we're going to get down into the 108s, 109s before we know it.
5 seconds behind the leader. They've taken 3 seconds.
And Killer can actually see a razor now. A razor has got to pit to have any chance in this race. His only option would be to keep going and try the price to the end, but it's not going to work. He's in this lap. So a razor then, and you can see Killer Corkin. I thought he was following him in. No, he was just taking the apex. So a razor pits then. Is he going to be primes to the end or try options to the end? 14 laps on the options.
It is possible, but you've got to take your time with them and take care of them.
If he looks after him, it is possible, and also with the track conditions being slightly lower, it could work, but he's gone for the primes. Now, as far as I'm aware, the other guys up the front are going to have to pit as well. But we're about to have a potential move for the lead of the race as Konzo has a look. He's got a good exit. He's going to have DRS. Let's see if we can ride on board from Connor's sort of view. Here we go. Hindle with another fastest lap. So as they head down into turns 3 and 4... Now, this is a tricky situation for Konzo. Obviously, he's battling his teammate. He doesn't want to hurt his tyres. If they both need to pit again, potentially Connor is the one that will be pitting first because he pitted early before.
Yes.
So he could just sit behind now, wait for the undercut. The problem is if he goes too long and Killer pits on the same lap, loses the opportunity. But if Konzo can make that late move into the pit lane and do it cleanly, it doesn't give Killer the chance to react.
Thing is, they're both in the same team, so you do not want to pit on the same lap if you're the car behind.
Exactly.
Well, but then again, what will you lose if you end up having to do the extra lap compared to stacking in the pits?
If you stacked in the pits and you were too close, you're going to lose 6 to 10 seconds. On the extra lap, you may lose 2 or 3. I've just heard Ray's microphone go, so come on, Ray, what have you got for us?
It's just a wee question. Has Dom got a Scott minion now?
Has Dom got a Scott minion? No comment. Okay, now Paul has managed to work his way up to 4th place. Other people have made stops. He's still running those prime tyres. I still think he's got another stop to make, and he's going to put the options on.
Just point out, on my screen, I've just seen Hindle take a touch too much curve at turn 1. He's going for a move on Andy Russell.
He is all over the back of Andy Russell. Now, Hindle, he's going to be massively frustrated. He seemingly had this race under control early on.
He had the pace.
He took a gamble, which was interesting to see. He's going for another gamble here. If he can make it work, he has. It's a nice move. Yeah, I mean, he took a gamble. It didn't work. He's been involved in a collision, which difficult for us to say whose fault it may or may not have been. But now he may be sat there driving angry, and it's no good driving angry. The film Drive Angry is good, but driving angry is no good.
She is nice in that.
Oh yeah, she's lovely. She is lovely. Okay, so Hindle, I mean, if you had come in as a reserve driver and you'd popped it on pole, you were leading the race, and then you did what he did, how would you feel?
Well, there's 2 ways of looking at it. At least you can say, well, at least I'm not going to affect the championship, people up front.
Yeah.
And he's entertained us. So he's probably sitting there thinking, well, people are going to enjoy watching this.
I actually think he may be sat there proper devastated with himself.
He's going to want another go at this.
Yeah. Yeah, he'll feel, after qualifying and the start of the race, he's got the pace to beat these guys. Now, obviously, the rest of the guys want to know that he's doing it in a fair way, which is understandable. Someone appears in the league as reserve driver and is suddenly magically fast, then they're going to just want to make sure that he's doing it fairly. Because if they're doing it fairly, then no arguments. You just dock your hat and go, well done.
The only thing with the event we've had today was because qualifying was getting drier and drier, it was who was on the right tyres at the right time of qualifying.
Okay, my bad's in second place. Konzo has pitted, gone for another set of option tyres.
They will go to the end for 10 laps.
They will go to the end. Now, it's going to be interesting to see where that brings him out, because we've actually got Hindle heading down the start-finish. There's another car going round turn 1 now. There it is. It looks like a Razor, who I think was on the prime tyre. He is, and I think he's going to have to make another stop. Now, Killer Corkin, what's Killer Corkin going to do?
I don't know, but did you just say a Razor might have to make another stop?
I think a Razor, he may not have to. He had about 14, 15 laps to do on the prime tyres.
You can do that.
The thing is, if he hasn't got another stop to make, Konzo's just going to annihilate him.
Yeah.
And Killer Corkin may come out ahead of this battle if he pits now, because Konzo could be getting held up at this moment in time.
And this is why a Razor may have been better off pitting a couple of laps earlier for the drier tyres.
Yeah, and possibly going for those option choice. Now, Killer Corkin has continued on for another lap. My bad has taken this opportunity to go for the pits, stick on another set of options, hopefully. So where is, not Killer Corkin, Konzo, coming around the final corner, side by side with a Razor.
Hindle in the pits again.
Okay, Hindle is in the pits again, so I would guess he's going for the option tyres. So as these guys go round turn 1, where is My Bad?
He's down the road. No, he's not.
No, he's not. He's behind them. He's only just coming out of the pit lane now. So Konzo got a undercut, essentially, on My Bad there. No, Konzo was ahead anyway. My error on that one. See, we do make mistakes. Now the question is, Killer Corkin, what are you going to do?
Hindle's gone for the primes.
Now, why would you do that?
Unless he's thinking that he's got to run both compounds. When he's already run 2 different compounds with the wets and the inters. Killer
Corkin's going for the pit lane. It is possible that he's thinking that he's got to go for both compounds of tyres, but obviously you don't need to when it's been a wet race at the start, or even if it...
Get past.
Okay, I've just been told that Konzo has got past. I just want to see what tyres Killer goes for. Anything other than options would be a bit of a daft choice, and it is the option tyres. Okay, so Konzo has got ahead of... a Razor. Has that potentially cost him any possible chance of an undercut? I think it has, because where's Killer Corkin? Heading up towards turn 1. There's Konzo appearing in the screen. Konzo's going to need a good run here. Now Killer's tyres are going to be cold, and here comes Konzo. It's going to be close. I don't think Konzo will get DRS, or he will. Detection is there.
Well, there's Paul's fastest lap.
Yep, so I think Paul must be on the option tyres now. Konzo ideally needs to jump Killer as early as he can. DRS is open. He's not close enough, I don't think, to go for the move. He may have a look, and if it's on, go for it. He is going for it. He's going for it. Can he make it work? He's backed out of it. Can kind of understand why on that one. You don't have to throw it all into one move. You can always live to fight another day or another corner.
Just point out, we've got Paul in the Williams in 5th. We've got My Bad, Jim, in 4th. Coming towards the end of this race, will Paul, as the number 1 driver, activate team orders and say, look, I need more points for this championship, let me past?
Quite possibly, but then if you keep an eye on what's going on the screen at the moment, looking at the points, if Killer wins this race, it's not a problem. If Konzo... he's going for it.
Connor around the outside, turn 1. Or is he going to go back for the undercut? He's waiting for this next straight.
He needs to just... I think he's going to go for it here. Killer defends the inside line. No, he's moved to the outside, showing Konzo the inside. Means they're going to be side by side into the corner. It's going to be close. It's close, but it's beautiful. Killer's got to be careful on that curb, and Konzo's ahead and got DRS because of where the detection point is. So Konzo takes the lead, but is Killer Corkin going to look again into turn 4? He did have a look. Konzo defended it. Move done. Move on to the next corner. I don't think that this battle is over, and while these guys fight, a Razor's dropping off a little bit in third place. My Bad's not that far behind in fourth. That's Richie Davey behind him in fifth, but he's a lap down. Paul's looks like he's going a little bit slow at the moment. He's pitted recently. He's now on the option tyres. Andy Russell is in seventh, with Hindle in sixth, who's on the prime tyres. He's going to struggle with the pace now. Nightwalker in eighth on option tyres. Apologies, not followed you much, Nightwalker or Jason, but we did catch you while you was battling with Paul. Adam 4600 exiting the pits in 10th place. Sorry, Ray, what was you saying there?
Killer's back through.
Killer is back ahead. I would guess DRS down into turn one, so as he's gone through the grid order there. I do apologise, missed that move. I did say the battle won't be over, and it isn't, but is Connor now going to get DRS heading down to turn four? If he has, we can't see that he's using it. He is using it. So we've got teammates now in Red Bull battling it out for the last 6 laps of the race to take the victory here. Now, you asked about team orders in the Williams team. What about team orders for these? Because Konzo is 20 points ahead of Killer Corkin. If Konzo takes 25 points here, that puts him on 107 points. Paul is currently on 105 plus whatever he earns today, which down in 5th place is only about 10 points.
I can't see any team orders between these two. These are going to battle it right to the line.
Ray says 2 minutes on last on. If I was team principal here, no team orders. You fight for you want the win, guys. You go fight for it.
Do you not see a repeat of the Turkish Grand Prix there with the?
No, definitely not. But from our perspective,
talking about Red Bulls.
Oh God.
I was searching on the internet this week.
Here it comes.
The Red Bull ring.
Oh God. The last few have been nice. I know this is going to be horrible. It's been setting me up for the last few weeks for something disgusting.
Well, I wanted to find some information about the Red Bull ring, and the first thing that came up when I searched Red Bull and ring was this.
Oh no. Oh.
That was his ring.
Oh, and that's going to be red, and it's definitely a bull.
Yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, back to the action.
That makes Jackass look lame. Okay, back to the action. Yeah, if I was team principal in this situation, that's just proper put me off. That was disgusting. Okay, back to this situation. If I'm team principal, no. If you want the win, guys, you're going to have to fight for it. And the reason why, we mentioned what Konzo would be on, but if Killer Corkin wins this race, that puts him on 87 points. And that means if Paul only scores 10 points, it closes the gap between Killer. Konzo is going for the move. Side by side again, and they make it through turn 2 quite nicely. It's not snowing here, by the way. It's the Blossom once again, just showing that we have now got a very nice, dry, sunny day. And Konzo's having a look up the inside. Killer locks up a little bit. Oh, a little bit of contact. And I think Konzo's perhaps busy backing out of that one a bit. It looked like he went very, very slow. Killer Corkin's now got the inside line into turn 5. He looks like he's backed out of it. I think these guys may be giving each other a little bit too much respect, and Konzo now does back out.
I think the Red Bull team are going to be getting a spare wing ready in the pits, because surely one of these two is going to end up facing the wrong way.
Konzo looked at side by side into the penultimate corners. It can be done, but it can also be quite dangerous. Now, I apologise that the TV crew is not showing us anybody else on track at the moment, but Killer Corkin going defensive. There's going defensive, and then there's putting a wall up.
That was the wall. That was the pit wall.
That was. Now, Connor, that's going to give him a bit of confidence, because if you're that following driver, it just makes you think he's under pressure, he's making mistakes, and Konzo up in the inside into turn 2. Can he make it stick? He's too far behind. Does he know he can still position his car? Side by side on the exit, and he's going to get DRS again, but Killer's had a fantastic drive out that corner.
This is going to come down to who's looked after their tyres while they've been battling, because the last lap of the race, they'll be on the 10th lap on these tyres, and they're going to be glowing red on their screens. They need to be so careful on the last couple of laps.
I mean, this is one of the things that, I mean, you mentioned it earlier, drivers are going to have to look after their tyres a bit, and they are. if you're embroiled in a battle and in a fight, you're going to hurt your tyres a bit. Or not necessarily a bit, a lot. I mean, we have just heard from the pit lane as well that there is no team orders within the Red Bull camp, which is rightly so as well. But I mean, from the World Championship race last night, I was behind Overdyking, and I'm sat there thinking, okay, I've been able to catch him up. And I feel I've got the speed to go past. I could attempt to go past and perhaps be involved in a battle, or I can sit here, apply some pressure, try and make him use his tyres up, because I can save mine a bit and then push hard for those last couple of laps. And when it came to that real hard push, I got a bloody screen freeze in a braking zone, and that kind of cost me a real good chance of attacking. So for these guys, they are going to have to look after their tyres, and perhaps Konzo hasn't, because Killer has pulled out a bit of a gap. So let's go and see what's happening elsewhere. My Bad is up into third place. Where's Eraser? He's pitted for the option tyres. I don't know exactly when that would have been, but that's cost him. So that's Eraser down to 6th, but I think he's got a chance maybe of catching Hindle.
This is where will the Williams team orders come into play.
Now,
Paul is going to want these points.
Now, if I was team principal of this team, this is a different scenario. My Bad has got 20 points. Paul has got 105 points.
Paul is going for the championship.
Yeah, Paul in this situation would want My Bad to give him the position, but at the same time, I think Paul would want My Bad not to give him the position. He would rather overtake him, earn the position, because if My Bad has earned that third place, then he deserves to be on the podium.
He does.
But he's having a wiggle. There's no team orders. But I think now we're going to see Paul going for the overtake. This is one that I would not expect My Bad to overly defend, because it is his teammate. And there we go. A little bit of contact, but fairly cleanly through. So Paul then works his way back up into third place, and look who's in the distance. It actually looked like a Lotus, but it's a McLaren, unless it was a Lotus. But he's further. I bet it was Adam 4600. It was. So Adam 4600 is behind the Williams, out of position on track.
Connor has now dropped off Killer by quite a distance. Just run away a little bit.
You're right there. Killer about to start the final lap. I wonder whether Konzo thought, I'll back it off for a lap, cool the tyres down, save a bit of fuel, push for the last lap. But the gap's too big for me now.
It's either that or it's down to the tyres. Who's burnt the tyres up the most?
Yep. There's a Lotus very, very wide there, but as we said, not in position. So the drivers now crossing the line to start their final laps. Hindle has got a Razor all over the back of him. A Razor's on the option tyres. This could be a battle on the final lap, but obviously we're going to try and keep an eye on when the leaders are approaching the final sector. Eraser, if he's going to have any chance, if he gets any chance, he's going to take it. They've got a Lotus ahead of them, though, and a Williams ahead of them. Possibility. Eraser makes contact.
Eraser's on the much fresher tyres here. He should be 4 or 5 seconds a lap quicker.
Definitely. That would have caused. Killer Corkin
is in the lead, but he's got a puncture.
Now, he may not know that he's got a puncture, and we discussed this the other day, something to do with the Codemasters patch. Drivers may not know that they've got a puncture straight away. If it's a slow puncture, where's Konzo? He's still in second place, so Killer Corkin here's got a puncture. If he doesn't know he has, he's about to. If he had another lap to go, he'd know he'd got a puncture, because it was coming. Crosses the line with a slow puncture to take the lead in Austria, followed by Konzo. Paul working his way after errors at the start up to third place. My Bad takes fourth place, could have been third place. Hindle and Eraser across the line. Eraser 5th place, Hindle 6th place. My goodness. I think then a few cars are perhaps out of order. We'll give Nightwalker some TV time. He wasn't in the last couple of races, but oh my God.
We've not discussed driver of the day, and I don't think at this point we can pick one.
I honestly would have to sit there and think about it for a moment, because
there's so many that deserve it.
There's so many in contention. I mean, team of the day, I think you could. Red Bull, yeah. First and second, fair enough. But I mean, what a race! I mean, we had 3 different leaders. 2 different leaders, 3 different leaders, sorry.
4 different compounds of tyres.
I mean, what was there anything that wasn't in that race?
Safety car?
That is true. Now, I don't know if anyone did crash out from the race or anything. I don't know if you want to have a quick look at the race director. I think we may have had a retirement at one point. I don't know.
All finished.
Everyone that started did finish, but Richie Davey finishes 11th place, nearly matches Rehan's pre-beaten record of pit stops with 6 pit stops, 3 of which were in 3 consecutive laps.
He finishes out of the points. That's the main thing.
He does. Now, he may have some comments to make after that race. I mean, he was in prime position when he made his second pit stop. If he'd have put the slicks on, he'd have or another set of inters, he'd have probably ran away with it. But anyway, there's the podium. Killer Corkin takes first place. Konzo in second place. Fantastic battle with those guys towards the end. And third place for Paul, who was leading at one point, went to the slicks perhaps a few laps too soon, but managed to work his way back up to the podium. Wow, what a race! What a race!
So it was Killer, Connor and Paul.
Killer, Connor and Paul. Now you've got to feel a little bit for. We've got a few penalties on the screen here. Eraser with a 5 second, Hindle with a 5 second. It doesn't change their positions because they're obviously both get 5 seconds there. It may affect whoever's behind them. I don't think so. It might have been too far behind. Quick look at the old race director. I've got a feeling we may see a few incidents here. We can see how many pit stops the drivers have done there, and the incidents. Adam 4600, 5 second penalty, severe collision with Richie Davey at the start. We did see that one. We did also see Adam make sure Richie continued ahead. Okay, I'm just going to flick through these quite quick. Richie Davey got an ignoring blue flags 5 second penalty. Hindle was ignoring yellow flags, and so was Eraser. That's illegal overtakes. The drivers, if they feel those are harsh, can appeal those and potentially get those back, but they would need footage and would have to appreciate that if there is reason for those yellow flags to be out, the penalties don't have to be given back. Now, as we wait for the drivers to join us in the on the podium for the interviews, I don't think we can actually give a driver of the day yet. I think what we'll have to do is, at the end of the podium interviews, perhaps kick all the drivers out and have a little chat, and we'll see if we can pick one. Because I mean, that was one hell of a Grand Prix.
I can't remember who it was that out of all the drivers that managed to get the perfect strategy. And whichever one of those drivers hit the perfect strategy, for me, change the tyres at the right time, should be the driver of the day. Because knowing when to change the tyres at the right time for the conditions and getting those pit stops correct is difficult. Quite
possibly, yes. So as we wait for the drivers to come on in, we have sent them an invite. And as they do come in, Ray, if you want to make sure that they've got their voices to share, while I just grab a drink.
Conzo, I was chasing you down, boy.
What's up?
I was chasing you down.
Yeah, I could have died in the last 3 laps.
I put my own tyres on way too early.
Yeah, middle stem will kill me, I think.
La la!
Okay, have we got everybody in with us? Do we have Paul with us? I know we've got Paul with us. Please make sure you got your voice set to share. Konzo, I think I heard you. Can you also make sure that you've got your voice set to share? And Killer Corkin, we're just waiting for Killer Corkin to join us for the interview.
There we go.
Here he is. So Killer Corkin has now joined us. So Jeff Fafar, if you could please make sure that you have got your voice set as allowed to share, and we will get going with our interviews. And quickly mention that Paul is so cocky about his podium finish, he's already turned on FIFA 16. So Jeff, have we got you? Can we hear you?
Yep.
Okay, hopefully he can be heard on the live stream. Now, apologies for the black screen that you've got on my screen. Waiting for Richie Davey and someone else to just continue in the actual lobby. So let's get to the interviews. Here we go. Right, Jeff. What a race. What a race. So we start from the start. qualifying, it's wet. What are you thinking? The race starts wet. What are you thinking?
Well, with the qualifying, I just thought that was quite horrible because I actually drove like 2 or 3 times in the rain before in that game, and yeah, I was just hoping for a quite good result, and yeah, it happened.
It definitely did. Now, as the race sort of got going, I can't remember what position you were in, to be honest, but I mean, once you realised you'd gained position sort of out of nowhere, did you have any idea of why it would have happened? And what are you thinking as all of a sudden you're finding yourself out in first place?
Yeah, that was a bit confusing because Hindle was in front of me, and all of a sudden he was gone and I was in first place, and yeah.
Well, I have to admit, the strategy that you called for that race was a very interesting one. A few people went for gambles, but it looked more like you went with a wet tyre, then put the intermediates on, ran them as long as you felt they could, and the option stint at the end was a fantastic one. So as you realise, okay, I've got Connor now fighting me, this is for the win, describe that battle for us, because it went on for 10 laps.
That was really intense because we were almost side by side in every corner, and it was just incredible. I think he could have gone past, but that margin of speed was missing. Nothing against you, Connor, but that was just incredible.
Well, from our view, it was spectacular. For those last 10 laps were absolutely spectacular, side by side, fighting all the way, but also showing a fair amount of respect to each other. Now, we did have a little bit of a chat. We have now decided who our driver of the day is, and Killer Corkin, you are going to get driver of the day for calling that race strategy very, very nicely, taking the victory. So congratulations to you on that one. Okay, now we're going to move on to our second place driver.
Before we do, can I just ask Killer if he was aware of the puncture at the end of the race?
Oh, that's true, yeah. Were you aware of the puncture you were getting at the end of the race?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
No. Oh no, not you, Connor. Killer Corkin.
Oh, Keller.
What? Right, okay. I'll tell you how it goes. From the spectator view, right, we get to view you having a full-on puncture. But what is actually happening is you've got a slow one. And at any moment, your tyre is about to go pop. Now, it gives us the dramatic effect of it as a pre-warning of you're going to have a puncture, because every time it's happened, we've gone, he's got a puncture. Someone goes, no, he hasn't. And then a few moments later, yes, he has. It's always the same way. So had that race gone on for one more lap, or potentially one more corner, that puncture would effectively have struck you. That's how close you were on those tyres at the end. So congratulations, and damn, you were lucky. Okay, now we'll move on to second place. Connor, as Killer sits there going, bloody hell. Connor, tell us about your session.
Well, qualifying didn't go too well. I had to back off in the final lap because I went over the last corner. So.
See, we saw you almost come to a stop before the finish line, and we wondered why it was, because you were on a good lap there. But fair play to you. If you knew you'd gone off, then respect to you.
I was purple there as well, so
oh,
they would have been quite high up.
Yeah.
Not sure.
Okay, so the race gets going. Again, I have no idea what position you were in at the start, because there was so much going on. Eighth. So, okay, as the race has got going, you're in eighth. Describe your working your way up to second place.
I was just basically trying to keep it on the road as long as I could. But taking advantage of other people squabbling over positions and stuff.
Well, it worked. It definitely worked. Okay, your view then of those last 10 laps. Well, actually, no, before you answer that, we kind of knew that you'd potentially pit a lap earlier, 2 laps earlier, for that final stop. You come out behind a Razor on the prime tyre. Do you feel he held you up and cost you a clear undercut?
A Razor on Prime. No, I never ran Prime. I was on options all the time.
No, yeah, you were on the options. He was on the primes. You came, yeah. He doesn't remember.
I don't really remember, to be honest.
Well, okay, let me put it this way. It probably did cost you a little bit on the undercut. So anyway, we'll scrap that question. Those last 10 laps then with Jeff. How was that for you?
It was very intense. Sweating buckets. And like just try not to make contact. It was the first time, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
racing and hard was the other thing.
From our view, I mean, you guys went through turn 2 side by side on so many occasions. It was beautiful to watch. On occasion, there was from our view, we saw tiny little bits of nudges, but a lot of respect given to each other. So, a fantastic race, well done. Now on to the sighing Paul. So, I think the only question we can really ask Paul is, you got gifted the lead and you gambled on the slicks. What was you thinking?
Why not?
Fair enough. Fair enough. From our view, it's quite funny because Hindle seemed quite comfortable in the lead. He gambled on slicks, got it very, very wrong. You took the lead, gambled the slicks. I would say got it very, very wrong, but it did cost you for a few laps. And you were right in the middle of a battle with a load of cars on intermediate tyres. Tell us what it was like being in that situation.
I don't know, I was in the front, so I don't care.
Fair enough. Okay, any team orders given to Jim towards the end of the race? He was potentially on for a podium. Was there any comments going over there, given your championship standings?
Nope.
Good, nice to hear. When we discussed it, and I said you might want him to give you the place, but you'd rather overtake him, which you managed to do. Okay, so from qualifying then, how did you feel your qualifying session went, and what were you thinking when you saw it's wet for quali, wet for the race?
Same as China.
I'm trying to think back to China now. Was that what you ran away with it, didn't you?
Yeah, boy.
Well, fair enough. If you're confident in the wet, you're confident in the wet. And when it's mildly moist, everyone's happy. Okay, right, back to the race winner then for the final question. Killer Corkin. I mean, what else can we say? Fantastic drive there. Do you think you can repeat it in Silverstone?
Hard to say. In my opinion, I quite like Silverstone. It's a good track and I'm quite good at it, but yeah, we have to see until the race ends next week.
Well, it will be a very, very interesting one to watch. Okay, that's the end of the podium interviews then. Well done to Killer Corkin for taking victory, Konzo second place, and Paul in third. We will be live again.
Carry on my podiums.
Yep, you're still on there. Keep going. Pretty good. Well, it may have got a bit closer, you know, in the points. It'll be interesting to see what it tallies up to at the end. But thank you very much. Oh, it will. Right, thank you guys for joining us for the podium interviews. It looks like Steve's looking like you got something to say.
No, it was just that Don was saying that Killer can win at Silverstone as long as he is the engineer again.
All right. Well, I've got a feeling, you know, if I think Paul's going to be quick there, but I also think if Hindle's on the grid again, he's shown he's got a bit of speed. He could be a bit of a spanner in this.
Rich Davey at some point is going to come good. He's had a lot of.
Do you want to rephrase that?
He is good. He's had a lot of misfortune.
Oh, now someone's just asked me what happened to Richie. Do we explain what happened to Richie?
Yeah,
He's on the first lap.
Well, okay. I don't know what happened heading up to turn 1. He was already in about 8th place then. He got hit by another car. That put him quite far down. As the race goes on, he was the first to go onto the intermediates and was the bang on the right time, was fastest on track and pretty much put himself in the possibility of winning the race.
He put himself in the lead at that point.
He did, yeah. And then he went to pit what looked like for either another set of inters or the dry tyre.
was options. He came in front of me out. So.
But he actually put full wets on. He came out of the pits on full wets, went straight back into the pits, then changed it to intermediates again, I think, or did he go to the dries? Inters, and then about a lap later he pitted again for the option. So essentially he did 3 pit stops in 3 laps. That was his race over. So I mean, a lot of people made gambles of decisions in that race. For some it worked, for some it didn't. But anyway, right, we're going to bring this to an end. The last thing I'll say is we'll be live again tomorrow for FRRI days. That'll be from 7:30. And then next Wednesday for round 9 of the World Championship at Silverstone, again live at 7:30. And then Thursday for the World Series round 9, again at 7:30 live on Twitch. I've been from a Racing DP, joined by Steve Sherberts in the commentary booth. So thank you to you, and thank you to Ray also in the pit lane. And to all of you viewers out there, once again, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again next week for the British Grand Prix.